Aloha everyone and welcome back. This is Marissa Indigo with Divine DNA Blueprint, and I just wanted to share some details, some themes, some visuals, and various levels of aid and support working through the themes of Pluto. The planet Pluto went direct in the cosmos above us last Saturday, and this is meant to support you in starting to work with the planets kind of on a shamanic perspective, starting to work with the planets as allies, personified as very ancient forms of intelligence and wisdom with various independent or unique frequencies to teach us different things, to activate us, to stretch us in our consciousness, essentially evolution. That's why we love evolutionary astrology. So this is all about Pluto direct, which happened last Saturday and can be helpful anytime you want to work with Pluto, anytime, anywhere on the journey when Pluto is coming up. And this is, I believe, the second video or podcast we have created in regards to working with Pluto, because this is a theme of working with Pluto, the planet, that will cycle back many times throughout our life. Pluto is a planet for evolutionary force and change and death and rebirth and very deep and visceral and raw themes of the journey. So death and rebirth, all of these different, really much more, how we would say, influential or impactful or powerful experiences which shape our lives, which shape us, these aspects of the journey. So what we are focusing on here is navigating and finding the exit and then exiting 4D. What we are experiencing now with Pluto going direct and all the other energies going into this, all of the different cosmic events going on here and the solar activity, is that we are having an intense and very direct experience of starting to actually be able to see the exit door, to start to see another way, another route, starting to get some ideas. So with this visual of being halfway across the bridge and the water is gushing and we have to release more before crossing the bridge to then go to the exit door. So more has to be let go of. Any weight, any boulders in the bag have to be let down, the old baggage, so that we can cross over. And this is going to be a lot of deeper themes. So this is another layer. As we shared, we've done a video about Pluto a few years ago, shamanic soul retrieval and ego death themes working with Pluto. This was a few years ago. So we have now another layer of that where we may have a stronger sense of our identity. And now it's time to let go of what is not authentic to us in a much deeper way, where it can bring the fear of change and shifts in dynamics in your personal life or relationships. Thus, these deeper themes can bring up a lot because we are going into a whole other layer. So I wanted to be sure to touch on some really much more serious topics like addiction to substances or people or circumstances. We're going to talk about addiction for a moment here. Addiction is an energy of attachment. So this could be to substances, to people, circumstances, even to food. And we are really starting to work on releasing these states of separation. Many of us can observe an addiction to emotional or trauma patterning unconsciously, like states of being in a loop of anger or even hatred, very intense feelings. And all of this can be addictive at a neurochemical kind of level, and then in the pain body with our various emotions and emotional bodies and how all of that is kind of interwoven into our being. Many right now may be struggling with addiction in various forms. Again, now whether that's actual substances or just circumstances or conditions, this is all conditioning. And it's important to start to really look at it from a holistic sense without judgment and just see, oh, well, I'm trying to get this quality of sweetness or peace or comfort, whatever it is for you. I'm trying to achieve that frequency of being, that state of being, that feeling from something, and it may not be the best source of that feeling for myself. So what could I do to give myself and support myself and give myself what I need in a much more conscious manner, something that serves me even more. So I'm giving myself a frequency of what I need, and it's not artificial, and it's not compromising my integrity or anything like that. And it is no longer coming from a space of separation. We must release all the shards of pain which separated us in story only. For some people, this can feel truly like a mortal pain, like, oh my gosh, my heart hurts so much, I'm gonna die. This is part of that deep kind of shamanic rebirthing that happens, an ego death, many layers of that happens with Pluto. So we could be feeling grief or shame and actually feel those in the body with pain in the heart or different areas of the body. So this is a really amazing and intense process of 4D clearing. And so it's a lot of story. Many of us could go down to rock bottom kind of levels of self-judgment. And it's interesting because we see these themes that happen in the collective unconscious, and we're kind of looking at this through the lens of transpersonal psychology, in addition to shamanism and kind of various natural layers of elemental awareness and wisdom of what connects us all as beings here. It's interesting to then see these themes mirrored in different systems, even dogmatic systems. So for a second, I'm going to talk about, in some of the more rigorous Judeo-Christian programming, we have the concept of judgment or judgment day. And there's some truth in that. The essence of that is where we are going to the rock bottom of our own self-judgment and seeing how we are in charge of this entire experience, and where we have held ourselves back or considered ourselves unworthy, like where have we condemned our own selves. And this is something that we do, living conditionally and having a lot of societal programming. This is all related to the 4D navigation, because we are really exiting the matrix now. And so what we're doing in this portion, this chapter, is more of a psychic surgery of belief systems and self-talk, different programming, different patterns. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about. It's an unconscious or subconscious addiction to certain tendencies that are actually perhaps maybe self-abusive. We start to internalize the old paradigm at some point in our life here, and then we become the abusers to ourselves. So we are kind of looping the trauma programming. So we've got to get out of that more reptilian brain and start to come into the holistic multiple hemispheres of our consciousness, our higher consciousness, and allow ourselves this experience of judgment, and then realize that that too is a lens of perception, and we can release and choose consciously. We always have the free will and the power of conscious choice to then do better, whatever it is, wherever we have the judgment. Well, what do we need to do? Do we need to call someone maybe that we hurt in unconscious behavior and apologize? Do we feel like we have to come clean about something, or share with our families, like, I wasn't really clear, this isn't really working for me, and really starting to honestly communicate our needs. This has a lot to do with the pain body. And we also want to share about how the physical body acts as a filter. We've known this since childhood for our own experience with illness and autoimmune, and how that's created in the etheric realms first, and then it's fixated upon unconsciously looping, and then actually creates a manifestation in the physical, in the body. So we've known that the physical body is a filter to information, and that we have to continue to run the energy and run the information and not hold things. And that's how we maintain wellness on all levels. But now we can share this more broadly because it's becoming more real for the collectives. We're starting to see how our physical body acts as a filter. And so we are now collectively learning and remembering a whole new layer, a whole new dimension of how the physical body actually works on a multidimensional level, as a conduit, as a symphony, as the greatest divine design of spirit being put into form. We are realizing new understandings of energy, the origins of dis-ease, and we are remembering them. This is what the mystics have held for us in the libraries. These codes have been in the Akash, and we just had to be able to access them. And so we share this because you'll start to very palpably feel running through your body whether something is appropriate or aligned or feels good or is a good idea, to try to use these terms. You're going to feel, is this harmonious? Is this a symphony? Is it a harmony for me? Or does this feel like discord? So we're going to share, trying to show you a tapestry weaving like a song, a sound current, and a symphony or composite of multiple threads of sound vibrating at different oscillations, at different different frequencies. And so we see how our entire life and reality and our functions of our being are a stream of energy, kind of a chunk of chords, frequencies, sounds, harmonics, and they have to be harmonized. So what's happening now is any thread of discord, any level where we have held a thread of discord, whether it is mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, soul-wise, energetically, or in a relational sense to a person or situation or a circumstance or a condition, we are going to be acutely aware of where there is discord. And the next phase of that is to remove it, is to take the action steps or whatever it is that's being shown to you, to have the courage to make the changes, to remove and separate yourself or walk away, whatever it is, from discord. Whatever that means, you can feel it. It is a very palpable feeling of, oh God, no, that doesn't feel good. And it could feel like nails on a chalkboard, or when metal forks get tangled up together and it's this like sharp gnashing metallic sound. It's going to feel cacophonous. It's going to feel unpleasant and something where you're like, ugh, it's kind of startling. So we're having this kind of pinging back and forth, many of us feeling the battle programming that is 4D, where it's almost like we're having a big boxing match between higher self and ego, or angelic self and angry self. Some feel like they're going back and forth, like this bipolar experience of heaven and hell. Heaven being when the heart is open and we feel at one and just in awe of creation and so much love and gratitude. And then hell being all of a sudden our heart has closed. We don't even know what happened or when it happened. And we know it happened because we start to feel judgmental and bitter, perhaps, abandoned, alone. And we are really starting to have these back and forth experiences of heaven and hell. So they correspond with whether or not the heart is open and we're focused in that like kind of lens of perception. And so what's happening here, there's so many ways to describe what is happening. So here's another visual, and then we're going to get into the solar activity and how all of this is connected through the solar activity, and how the sun itself, our local sun here, is facilitating like a lens. If you were to take a magnifying glass and place it in front of the sun, and that glass along with the light of the sun magnifies the intensity of the energy and the heat to actually cause fire, the light of consciousness, the holy fire. That is what is happening right now with all of this solar activity, and the fact that we're in a very energized and consistent solar cycle now. This is what I go in depth on in my Remembering Solaria, a solar consciousness course, which I highly recommend if you want to learn more about space weather and how the magnetics, all of it, how it's related to our psychology and our functioning and our emotions as well, and the ascension journey. It's all connected. And so with that magnifying glass, magnifying the rays of the sun for us down onto each of us, that is another way of showing how all is connected. But another way to say this is the image of the soul is floating into the body. So you could almost imagine like these etheric bodies that just kind of look like light and maybe, glittering, buzzing electricity floating down, because they're coming from the higher realms, and the higher realms are inside of us too, but at first it looks like it's coming from above. And it's kind of this funny thing where it's a fractal, it's from deeper inside. But our minds, the way that our human minds try to describe and put concepts behind a process, is this visual of this soul floating into the body. And with all this solar activity, the amounts of photonic light have consistently been destabilizing the magnetosphere here on the planet. Destabilization. Now, we are electromagnetic beings. This also affects our cognitive functioning and our nervous systems and all of this, everything, even our heart, all of these systems that are electromagnetic, whole spinal cord and the brain. As such, this is incrementally important to really have a grip on reality. And we say that, I know that sounds so funny, because reality is consistently dissolving and rewriting in accordance to us and our state of mind and our frequencies of consciousness. So that's where we talk so much about stabilizing and getting your true north so that you can have a grip. You have a grip on yourself. You have a grip on your truth and on your love and your connection. And you are able to stand up in the ship. And you have your sea legs. These are really great images of we are going forward on a journey in a ship, and sometimes the waters are nice and calm and we can feel more more relaxed, and other times they're more choppy, and we have to really be focused in order to stand upright and to navigate through any of these storms. So we want to be spiritually grounded. The true north and finding your compass, I have a beautiful ebook that I made with so much excitement and love for you all to support your process with some of the most profound systems for self-discovery that I've been using over the years that supported me in the very beginning, being able to navigate some really deeper dark night of the soul kind of processes and get a firm grip. When I say get a grip, have a grip, be spiritually grounded, to have a full, firm grasp on myself and who I am and why I'm here, and starting to trust that. In the description box, there is a link. All you have to do is just sign up to download it. So we also want to have an array of tools handy, and this True North Compass ebook will support you with that, having some tools to start to source where when you are in a phase of destabilization, which can be confusing and disorienting, you have actual tangible proof for your consciousness, for your psychology of, oh yeah, this is who I am. This is why I came. So even though I'm reorienting myself and I can feel a little lost sometimes, I do have a grip on who I am. I do have a root here. Very important. Also wanting to use multiple frames of reference throughout this process to make sure that we're not only looking at where we are and what's going on through, let's say, the 3D social conditioning, but really bringing it into a unified perspective, always reaching out and getting support, talking deeply with others to process together with friends and tribe, spending a lot of time out in nature, having rituals with fire and water to purify. And this is again where it's so interesting that the traditions and kind of the jargon of a lot of the Judeo-Christian systems, you see how they really got their origins and their roots in shamanism. And we always like to go to the very pure essence of something versus the modernized or watered down or, corporate, some kind of somehow distortion of a message. So this is the going back to the roots of our shamanic roots, so the symbolism of baptism by holy fire or holy water. And the holy fire and the holy water would be that from nature, the actual elements, which are guardians for us here on the journey. So I always like to weave, because I always love to study theology and comparative theology all across the planet with various cosmologies, and it's always interesting to see the parallels. So I do enjoy pointing those out for you to see how there are layers of truth in many things that are still present here. We just have to kind of trim away, any of the excess or any of the overly controlled forms of different things. So we want to have the fire and the water for purification, and there are rituals you can do for that, and we have fire rituals that we've shared here on this channel, and then there's also a free working with the healing power of fire little course that I put together on the Mystery School, which you're welcome to check out. Like, well, how do we work with fire? And to work more deeply with fire and water, there's also Master Lama Rasaji, the Circle of Life, where I'm doing the Tai Chi Gong training, and he has put out the 45-day challenge where he shows you different rituals to do working with fire to purify and to navigate through 4D, and then also water, because we want to have a balance of our beingness. It's very important to have a balance of the yin and the yang. So talking about fire and water, working with the elements here. Then we have earth, and we want to connect with the earth, going out with her very often. I mean, every day would be great in some form, even if it's for a few minutes, because we want to connect with the element of earth for stability and grounding, building a sense of feeling solid and rooted, because we are going quantum. We are really starting to feel like, whoa, I'm an energy being, and this is flowing and kind of moving around and all of this. So we want to own the feeling of stability and rootedness, or feeling solid. And that goes back to our true north, to your compass of who you are. So coming back to the earth, the emerald ray, and connecting with the greenery of the plant kingdom, and the animals and the fairies, or the devas, which are the pure spirits of earth. We want to share how we are working deeply with the planet, and this brings our grid work in as well, but working with Gaia and doing our process, our shamanic process, our exiting of the 4D, doing it with nature. We say nature, mother, grandmother, Gaia. Nature is our church. The elements are our guardian teachers, the elders. So these are ways to stabilize ourselves and to continue to exit the 4D with senses of balance and connection and feeling supported and loved and stabilized with the elements. So we always love working with the shamanic teachings of nature herself because they're the most direct and poignant and pure and beautiful as well. All of us can just start connecting with the different elements and tuning in and seeing, okay, well, how can I connect with this today? And the reason we didn't mention air is because there's already a ton of air. We are pretty much living discombobulated and disconnected and disembodied strictly in the mind and in the linear processes often and the nervous system. So we're kind of living like in the brain and not really even in the spine, and that's all air. So in Vedic wisdom, that's all vata, which is air and ether. So we want to say that most of us have mastered the air element as far as having it be very present in our lives, and it will continue to because of the way that we are functioning as energetic beings. So we feel it is important to bring in the other elements, to focus on those right now, to bring in more stability and softening, clarity and groundedness of those other elements, because there is so much air right now and in general and in how we have been programmed to function in society. With all of this solar activity, there can be mental instability, or what at least through our human lens we would perceive or think would be mental instability. Obviously, reach out for support. Always reach out to professionals and reach out to friends if you really feel like, okay, I'm losing my mind. But really discern and feel, oh, well, is this insanity, or is this I'm building a new reality? Is this insanity, or does my chart say that I actually have a fear, susceptible to being afraid of going insane? Is this insanity, or is it entirely new synapses are being made in my brain and it feels really weird and it's kind of confusing, and it's like, well, I know that's not me, but I'm working on finding out more about who I am. These are new ways of thinking, new levels of seeing, starting to get thrown in to the deepest oceans of feeling and increased awareness, which happens automatically, and we are learning how to navigate this. So another visual of this is when worlds collide. These were the codes that were coming through a few weeks ago, when worlds collide, and also all a clatter. And we have this visual of all of the aspects of ourselves are coming in. They're all coming into the body, and that ties back to like that, when soul meets body, spirit into matter, the soul coming into the body. Like, there are so many aspects of us that are our higher aspects, and then we have versions of past selves and those things that we are working to integrate now and release and perhaps evolve. So we have all of these aspects crashing into one another. As we get frequency access, we're expanding our sense of consciousness and awareness in our being, so more aspects are coming down, and they don't all get along with the old aspects. And so we need to discern, after these cycles of crashing, which pieces we have to start to bring it together. So which pieces have enough of a shared pattern or a frequency of yes, and which pieces have the feedback of nope, not anymore. We're done. This doesn't fit here. The yes comes along with us. This is what we take across the bridge. And the no's are to let go. We let them go into the river. And so this is happening on all levels, all over our reality. These changes are happening with soul groups. We may have done and come as far as we can with certain soul groups, and now it's time for new ones or a deeper development into ones that have been on your periphery, but the circles are getting closer in now as all of us go deeper. Well, then we go deeper together. Shifts with friends and family, career or vocation, and ultimately ourself and our relationship to ourself and supporting ourself with source. So how are we managing or honoring or respecting our energy, and how are we treating ourselves? How are we showing love to ourselves by choosing what energy to exchange with and to exchange our own energy with in every scenario, So starting to really feel in, again, this is more of the energy mastery of feeling into scenarios and relationships and situations, circumstances, conditions, places, all of it, just as it comes up in the moment. You just really allow yourself to feel in, dive in, plug in to whatever the essence is, whatever the thing is presenting itself of a decision, or just realizing like, this just doesn't feel the same anymore. This just doesn't feel right anymore. And really starting to sit more deeply with these. These are various levels of crossroads. A lovely image to kind of share more of this energy and how all of this is happening, the 4D mechanics, everything is shifting and evolving and merging and new relationships are being forged and new bridges and all new is coming online into the physical. And what more of an incredible example of the whales. So I got an article today about the whales, various species of whales, having a meeting, essentially having a meeting in the waters here in Washington in the Pacific Northwest. And I was just stunned. It's the orcas and the humpbacks. Their populations are doing better here, so they're having more and more interactions. And today there was an article about how a few days back there was like a 3-hour interesting meeting between the orcas and the humpback whales, and it was really interesting to read the article. I'll post a link to it here. It's with Epoch Times, about how the scientists were kind of assuming that this may be contentious or territorial between these two species, because classically, right now, again, this is when we want to be sure that we're really feeling into the moment of what is present versus using the past to reference something which could actually be giving us an inaccurate perspective of what's actually happening. So classically, now we know orcas are more assertive and aggressive. They have that personality about them. We all know this. And humpback whales have a completely different energy. So it's interesting because reading the article, you could see how the various scientists were kind of blown away and they were startled, and they were using, dramatic language to describe what they were seeing, and they were assuming that this was a contentious encounter. And yet when you read through the entire article, they share how there's actually been no evidence of any kind of attack or hostile behavior between orcas and other whales in the Pacific Northwest here. And so as I'm reading this article, what I'm seeing is, oh my goodness, like this is fabulous. This is an example of the merger of higher dimensions with the physical reality here, so that everything is raising and lifting and merging together. And I was seeing this as, this is a communication between these species in the whale road. This is a cross-pollination of codes. This is an example of bridges and connections being forged, as this is a time of coming together with tribe and building more tribe. And really looking at the commonality and the priorities of coming together and learning how to communicate. This is so relevant to where the sun in Libra is right now, building relationships. And so they were describing how the whales were communicating, and they were using communication in their own languages through frequency in various ways. So they were using vocalizations, and they were using tail and fin slaps, and then even physical language, which was kind of, to me, looked to be more like a grid working piece of conveying information, almost like a dance of weaving patterns in the water, like energy trails in the water, where they would take turns, not really charging each other, but chasing and going after one another, and then stopping and letting space come between all of them, and then switching who would chase who. And it's like they're feeling each other out. They want to learn how to get along. They want to build a bridge together, building the bridge together. And this is so emblematic of humanity and where we're all going for New Earth and the new paradigm now. Is we are in this space of the internal battle as we are exiting 4D, and we're releasing our inhibitions and anything which doesn't serve us, any limitations or self-criticisms or anything old, and learning who we really are, so that we can come together with more like-minded, like-hearted people of every species. So I thought that that is just such a beautiful example of what's going on right now, and how this is happening micro, macro, on every level. This is happening in what was formerly called government. I mean, every system is going through a rebirth with Pluto direct right now. A beautiful burning, a holy fire of, okay, yep, this isn't working, so we're going to be putting this under assessment and that, and we're going to let that go. And oh, maybe we could think about resurrecting this, which is actually a really lovely and core idea that we've always really resonated with, but it wasn't always at the forefront of our consciousness. And now it's like, oh, we're really passionate about this. This is a deep soul excavation, a resurrection of the authentic self, and living in partnership, functioning in partnership, communicating in partnership with the divine. So it's very exciting. Everyone's doing great. We are so close. We are so close to the finish line. And when I share this about navigating 4D, most of us are in 5D often and a lot of the time. And we are learning how to hold the frequencies more light and more pure love and unconditional existence and inner peace, to be permanently in 5D as our baseline of functioning. And as we are transitioning over, as we're crossing that bridge, we are in this process of, with all of the solar activation, assessing again another level of review of, okay, what have I been shown shown, what have I learned here in the 4D of having this kind of multidimensional access where I can now simplify and purify my focus and my clarity to then go to the next level, because I'm ready for the next level that feels kind and lovely, connecting, building, creating, creativity, artistic expression, authentic, free, just these beautiful qualities, you know, abundance, nature, things that just feel just really lovely and uplifting and inspiring, these new themes, because this is where we're all headed. So this is a great example of the nodes and how the south node, or the tail end, the past of the dragon for the what was 18 months, which we still have a few months left of right now, is we were coming from Scorpio and going forward into Taurus, which is the new earth. So we're coming out of shadow and a lot of deep inner seeing and releasing, and being able to have the courage to look at our skeletons in the closet and love ourselves anyway, and commit to our journey and consistently showing up and living our best life, showing up as our best self. That is the goal. That's the focus. So this is just some information to share the process of navigating to finally exit 4D with Pluto direct. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you an amazing process with all of this. Just having so much fun, having that presence, and it can feel like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It can feel like everything's falling apart, but we just hold on and stay in the center, remembering to laugh and have a good time and have gratitude for all that we're experiencing, and that we have the ability to be here for these times. It's very exciting, and just focusing on that and not getting lost in the story. And maybe it would be a good idea to have some kind of humorous reminder, an inside joke for yourself for your ascension journey. I was saying to one of my friends, like, maybe we need to have an inflatable flotation device or an actual life jacket or something funny, and like have it in our house. And whenever we're drowning in our programming, you know, have a little sign next to it, and have it in a place where you're gonna see it, like next to your couch or something. Like, you're going to see it every day as you pass through different rooms of where you live, and have a little sign next to it that says, oh, let's put on our life jacket, you know. And just having fun. Like my teacher would say, put the fun back in dysfunction, make dysfunction work for you. So we want to have fun with the journey, because it's all a consciousness experiment. We don't want to take it too seriously while we feel many different emotions and allow them to arise naturally. It's a very intense process, and it can be exhausting to deal with so much emotion, but it's all great, and it's expanding us even bigger than we ever thought, and aligning us with the next level, which we have been calling in. So we have to trust it and just have a blast. So thank you all. I will see you for the next video. Take care.